Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're heading down a path that, well, it might make you grip your steering wheel a bit tighter next time you're out driving. We're diving into some real-life stories, really unsettling, genuinely terrifying encounters that happened on America's highways. Yeah, the source material for this one is a collection of narratives from a popular online series. Stories described simply as true horror. And our goal here isn't just, telling scary stories, although they are definitely compelling. No, we want to unpack what makes these moments so deeply disturbing. What do they tell us about feeling vulnerable out there on the open road, maybe when we're most alone? And what about our instincts when something unknown happens, those dangers hiding in places we usually think are totally ordinary?
Well, that's what's so interesting, isn't it? These personal stories, they give us this unique window into the psychology of fear and isolation. They really get at the heart of encountering the unknown when we're outside our normal comfort zones, especially, when we're alone or somewhere unfamiliar. It kind of forces us to rethink how safe we actually are.
Absolutely. And this first story, it throws you right into that feeling of vulnerability. It's from someone who was the designated driver, driving home late after a party on Highway 513. Picture this. It's not a big highway, it's an unlit country road, mostly woods, maybe a house here and there. The narrator is there with friends Michael, Eddie, and Daniela. And the situation starts out pretty relatable, actually. Daniela maybe had a bit too much fun, desperately needs the restroom, really making a scene about it. So, the driver, who also needs to go, pulls over on this dark, empty road. Daniela gets out first, heads into the crops beside the road, and just disappears. The narrator goes the other way, into the trees. Okay, and this is where it shifts. It gets darker. The narrator comes back to the car. Eddie's completely passed out in the back. Michael and the narrator just sitting there listening to music. But then it hits the narrator. Danielle's gone a while, 5 minutes. That's too long just for that. So the narrator gets out, calls her name. Michael yells for her too. Nothing. There's this feeling, this dread building. But the narrator makes Michael go with them, flashlight out, into these really thick, overgrown crops. And inside the crops, pitch black, things get seriously creepy. Michael's still calling out, maybe trying to laugh off nervously, but the narrator hears something else. Footsteps. Distinct footsteps. They tell Michael to shush. They call Daniela's name again, thinking maybe she's messing with them. And the footsteps stop again. They push a bit further into the small, narrow clearing, and suddenly, someone steps out. The flashlight beam hits their legs first, then moves up, and it's not Michael. Just some random guy they've never seen before, and the look on his face is just, not friendly. Not at all. Pure panic. The narrator just turns and runs. Makes it back to the car in maybe 10 seconds. Eddie's still out cold. The narrator just slams on the car horn again and again, trying to signal the others. Finally, Michael bursts out of the crops and he's dragging Daniela. She's unconscious. They wrestle her into the car, and then Michael points. There's this nasty gash on her forehead. Looks like she was hit hard with something sharp. Michael's sobering up fast now, says hospital. Now. But the really crucial piece, the thing that explains it, comes later. At the hospital. Michael tells the nurses, not the narrator directly, interestingly, that he saw some guy dragging Daniela's body. She was already unconscious. The guy noticed Michael and then just ran off, deeper into the crops. And Daniela, when she's stitched up, she remembers nothing. Zero memory from stepping into the party until waking up after being hit. That total blank. Wow.
Yeah, that memory loss, it's likely dissociative amnesia. It's a known response to severe trauma. The brain essentially heals itself, shutting down memory encoding during the event. It's a protective thing, but deeply unsettling. And the attack itself, unprovoked, unknown attacker, isolated dark place, it's a sudden, violent breach of safety. Criminology sometimes calls this opportunity theory. You have a vulnerable person, lack of witnesses, or easy escape. It creates this situation. Also, the ambiguity is key. The footsteps first, then just a glimpse. That uncertainty often messes with our fight or flight response, causing that intense confusion and terror alongside the panic.
That's a really good point. Your sense of security just vanishes, and the brain trying to protect itself. Intense. Okay, so from that kind of physical violation, our next story shifts gears. It's about trust being twisted. When something that looks like authority is actually the threat. This narrator's driving home from a late shift at a pharmacy just past midnight. 12:512 a.m., they remembered the exact time. On another dark, empty highway, the kind more likely to see deer than another car. So they're coming around a curve and they see lights up ahead. Reflective cones laid out, a flashing blue light, and a man standing there in a reflective vest. Looks exactly like a police sobriety checkpoint. The narrator's a bit confused, hadn't seen one there before, but slows down, pulls over. The man waves them down, gesturing not to move. He definitely looks the part, uniform under the vest. Narrator rolls down the window, so the interaction starts. The man, he's described as young, maybe 25, bit of stubble, has an earring, but his voice is weirdly low, not commanding like you'd expect from an officer. He asks for license and registration. The narrator asks, did I do something wrong? Pretty sure they weren't speeding. The guy pauses, looks away for a second, then back. Sir, this is a sobriety checkpoint. Still that quiet voice. Okay, here's where the alarm bells really start ringing loud. The narrator pushes back a bit, asks why he needs ID if there's no suspicion of anything. Then the officer asks the narrator to step out of the car for a walking test. The narrator gets out and immediately feels how much this guy towers over them. He pulls out, like a roll of tape, stretches it out on the ground, maybe 15 feet, tells the narrator to walk the line, arms out, and the whole time, this cop is standing way too close. Uncomfortably close. When the narrator gets to the end of the tape, they look back towards the flashing light, and it's not on a police cruiser, it's just sitting on the dashboard of this old, small sedan parked nearby. That's the moment, the chilling realization. The narrator looks straight at the man and says, can I see your badge? And the guy just stares, a completely blank stare. And the narrator knows this isn't a cop. That feeling must have been ice cold. The fake officer mumbles something, then leans into his own car like he's going to get the badge. That's the chance. The narrator doesn't hesitate. Runs back to their own car, keys in, engine on. The imposter looks up, realizes what's happening, and raises a gun. But the narrator just floors it. The car leaps forward, smashing right through the cones. They escape, see his headlights flick on way behind them, but they're already hitting 60 plus and pulling away fast.
Wow. That's all. I mean, it really makes you wonder, how do you tell real authority from fake in a situation like that? Especially when you're alone, vulnerable. It's fascinating and scary how effectively the imposter used all the symbols, the vest, the cones, the light, the uniform talk. He's exploiting what psychologists call authority bias, or maybe even confirmation bias. Our brains want to see what we expect to see. We see the signs of a cop, we assume it's a cop. It's a mental shortcut. So the shock when you realize the person who's supposed to help is the danger. It's profoundly disorienting. A really key thing is noticing inconsistencies, like the narrator eventually did. The wrong car, the weird voice, the non-standard request. Those small details are crucial checks, even under stress.
It definitely makes you think twice, doesn't it? About just automatically trusting those symbols. Okay, so if that story was about trust being broken, our final account strips things down even further. It pushes into that really primal fear, being totally isolated and facing something unknown, unseen in the darkness. This narrator's on a road trip, Maine to New York, driving a Jeep Wrangler, top off, enjoying the night air. Late, past midnight, somewhere deep in rural Vermont. And then the gas light comes on. Turns out the gauge was broken. Despite assurances it was full, nope, empty. The Jeep starts sputtering, making weird noises, and then just dies. Random. No gas, desolate road. The feeling of helplessness must have been immediate. They managed to call the AAA, but the dispatcher says it'll be at least 20 minutes. So they're stuck, waiting. And it's dead silent out there. No cars, no distant sounds, just crickets. The woods all around. And then sounds start coming from those woods. Heavy footsteps. At first, the narrator thinks maybe a deer or a bear. Bear country, apparently. They walk over to the passenger side, trying to hear better. Then, distinctly, 2 claps, like human hands clapping. They listen closer. Then 3 claps. They call out, hello, hoping someone might answer. Maybe someone else broken down. But the clapping just stops. Silence again. Only the crickets. Feeling uneasy now, the narrator gets back inside the Jeep. Then hears more footsteps. Coming from the woods towards the car, they stop nearby. The narrator looks out the side and sees it ahead. Just ahead, peeking around a tree trunk right near the Jeep, described as looking almost lifeless. The eyes empty, unreadable. It's so horrifying the narrator doesn't even scream, just freezes for a second, then frantically cranks up the manual windows, turns off the headlights to be less visible, but the Jeep's top is off. They're totally exposed from above. It's pitch black now, can't see a thing outside. Just hearing the knot sounds, ducking down below the dashboard, doors locked, just praying. And then, the absolute worst. They hear the distinct sound of a hand grabbing the door handle, trying it. The narrator stays completely still, hardly breathing, expecting pounding, or an arm reaching in over the door, and then they feel it. A hand aggressively grabbing their back right through the open top. That's when the scream comes, loud as possible. But just as suddenly the hand lets go, at the same instant, light floods the area, the sound of a big truck engine. Headlights, it's the AAA truck pulling up, whoever or whatever was grabbing them, gone, vanished completely. But that image, that lifeless head by the tree, imprinted, just the thought of something like that simply disappearing. Chilling.
Oh, absolutely. This story hits on pure psychological terror. Extreme isolation meets the truly unknown. What's really potent here is the ambiguity, isn't it? First, just sounds. Then that brief, terrifying glimpse of something almost human, but wrong. It touches on the uncanny valley concept. Things that look nearly human but have something off about them trigger a deep revulsion or fear. And when our brain faces ambiguous threats like that, especially when isolated, it tends to default to worst-case scenarios to ensure survival. It fills in the blanks with fear, so the terror gets amplified, maybe even beyond what a clear threat might cause. And because it was never identified, never resolved, the psychological impact, that haunting memory is incredibly strong. The brain just keeps asking, what was that?
Yeah, an unanswerable question hanging there. Okay, let's try to pull these together. What are the common threads here? What do these awful experiences tell us about being out there on those lonely roads?
Well, connecting the dots, a few things really stand out, I think. First, obviously, the intense vulnerability that comes with isolation. Nighttime, remote location, far from easy help. That's a recurring element. Second is the nature of the threat itself. It's either disguised, like the fake police officer playing on trust.
Right, using expectations against you.
Exactly. Or it's completely unknown, ambiguous, like the figure in the crops or that head in the trees. That uncertainty is deeply unsettling. Third, you see the sheer power of these sudden, unexpected encounters to cause real trauma. They leave these lasting psychological marks, often because they trigger those deep-seated primal survival responses. And yet, fourth, amidst the terror, look at the resourcefulness. These people didn't just freeze entirely. They acted, they ran, they drove away, they honked the horn, they called for help. That survival instinct, even when terrified, is remarkable.
That's true. They all got away, thankfully. So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? When you're out on the road next time, does hearing these stories change how you see the dark spots between streetlights? Or the silence on a country road? Or even maybe a seemingly normal setup like a sobriety checkpoint? It's definitely a stark reminder, isn't it, how thin that line can be between just a regular drive and something else, something terrifying. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into these highway horror stories. We hope it was, both thought-provoking and maybe just the right amount of unsettling. We always appreciate you tuning in, and we'd love to hear your thoughts or if there are other topics you'd like us to tackle in the future.
Absolutely. And remember, exploring stories like these, or any information really, it's always valuable to stay curious, but also to think critically about what you're hearing.
Well said. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and maybe check your rearview mirror now and then. Join us again soon for another journey of discovery here on The Deep Dive.